The Cobra Commander demands G.I. Joe surrender at once, or he'll disintegrate New York City.
Everybody growing up in the 80s knew that G.I. Joe was a big deal. With their patriotic characters and military-style toys, it was a household name. And everyone knew if you wanted to be the best G.I. Joe fan in the group, you had to have the Wolverine missile tank from the second year of the toy line. Now, with that vehicle, you got Covergirl packaged with the Wolverine missile tank. It was pricey, but hey, if you wanted to add weight to your shelf and have bragging rights, this was the way to go. She was a tank-riding figure, but in the original US line, she wasn't sold as a single-carded figure like Scarlett or Lady Jaye, so growing up, we were kinda meh about Covergirl. When we started to dive back into the G.I. Joe world as adults, though, we realized we had missed out on a really interesting character. So today, you're coming with me as I tell you all about Covergirl and her cover story. Let's go! Who is Covergirl? Over the years, there have been many interpretations and reinterpretations of Covergirl, but there are some things that remain consistent, and that's basically who she is. Allow us to introduce Courtney A. Krieger. Her file card lists her birthplace as Peoria, Illinois, and her primary military specialty is armor. Since we love a multi-talented woman, her original secondary specialty is AFV mechanics, while later profiles and stories also lean into her counterintelligence and undercover skills. She's also a qualified expert when it comes to the Law rocket and the Dragon AT missile, with her go-to firearms being the M16 and the M1911A1 pistol. Sounds pretty cool, right? But there's more. She's also very good with diesel mechanics and gas turbine technology, which she pursued specifically at Armor School at Fort Knox. And she did all of this because she wanted to. You see, when she was younger, she was actually a highly successful fashion model in Chicago and New York, as you can see in her original file card. She was the cover girl, if you get what we mean. She was the face of magazines, brands, the whole shebang. However, she found this lifestyle extremely hollow, and to be honest, we kind of understand. She got visibility out of her modeling job, but there wasn't much in return for it other than money. There isn't much place for her talents there, and that eventually took a toll on her. So, being the badass she is, she left it all behind, the glam and the glitz, and went for something that would focus on what she could do and who she could be. That's how she ended up being a part of the military. She even got counterintelligence training at Fort Huachuca Military Intelligence School, which is a really big deal in the G.I. Joe world, kind of like Harvard for us. And because she found the whole modeling job hollow enough to walk away from, whenever she was assigned a job where she had to use her beauty to get everything sorted, she hated it. She's honestly kind of a feminist icon in some ways. Everything about Krieger is intentional, and she doesn't dwell on regrets. Despite all of this, however, Covergirl was never as popular as we think she should have been. I mean, she debuted as a part of the 1983 G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero toy line, but because she was in a vehicle pack format, there was a bit of a snag. The vehicle pack format wasn't uncommon or anything, but it meant that people wouldn't want to pay extra for Covergirl. This access gap meant there was a lack of social footprint in pop culture society, and maybe that's why, when we think about prominent G.I. Joe women, we think about Lady Jaye and not Covergirl, even though Covergirl came out before her. Also, while we're on this subject, have you ever heard the name Hurricane Helga? So basically, Hurricane Helga, with the first name Ariana, was actually Covergirl too. This was the preliminary Hasbro codename for her, then they decided to go with Covergirl because this name kind of acted like a bridge between her pre-military identity and her military brand. And if you're an international G.I. Joe fan, then you might even know her as Agente Secreta Sparta, as she was introduced in Brazil. In Argentina, she still had the same name Sparta, but she had beautiful blue highlights. Eventually, in 2005, Covergirl was updated as a figure because Hasbro finally decided to include her in a Devil's Due Fans Choice 3-pack alongside Spirit Iron Knife and Hannibal Reborn. But in this particular drop, she wasn't named Covergirl. Instead, she was referred to as Agent Courtney Krieger. Sadly, Hasbro never came out publicly to talk about why they decided to drop the name, but fans have long speculated that the codename may have been avoided for legal or trademark reasons, but Hasbro doesn't appear to have publicly confirmed a clear reason. But then again, this codename is the most recognizable thing about her, so we don't really get the justification behind this decision. Then, in 2013, she received this special update for the G.I. Joe Collectors Club with long strawberry blonde hair and a brown jacket that had a Wolverine patch on the left sleeve. So, while Lady Jaye or Scarlett were always Lady Jaye and Scarlett, our girl went through at least 3 different names. No wonder she kinda slipped through the cracks. Now, let's take a look at her origins. Marvel Comics, G.I. Joe, a real American hero. 1983 to 94. First stop on our list is Larry Hama's 155-issue-long run with Marvel. If you're thinking about G.I. Joe comics, this is probably the one you're thinking about. And what really surprises us about this whole comics run is that Covergirl shows up for several issues, but in the original Marvel run, we never really got a solo issue built around her. And this matters because she's one of the franchise's earliest female characters. She was always present for the big moments, but she was never the center of attention. But when you look at the Marvel run a little closer, you'll see that despite not being at the center of it all, she actually did quite a few notable things. For example, the first time she's introduced in the 16th issue, she shows up to save the day. The G.I. Joe team was defending the U.S. Treasury building in Washington, D.C. against a Cobra plan where they were going to deploy this plague toxin. And Covergirl rolls up in her Wolverine and gets rid of, most of the tanks the Joes were struggling with. And from there, the Marvel run deploys her with consistency. She's partnered with Clutch for surveillance, especially in Italy and Switzerland, and it kind of becomes obvious as you go through the issues that he really likes her. However, whenever he would make a move on her, she'd ignore him and focus on the case at hand. And Hama never uses this plot point of her ignoring Clutch's moves as a gag. Then, we get the Frusenland arc. Here, she was sent as a gunner in the Persuader laser tank against the Cobra armored vehicles, and of course they won the engagement, and eventually, when they were hit by Cobra's brainwashing weapons, they were rescued by Battle Force 2000, which is really funny because in the story arc, G.I. Joe came to the country to show up for Battle Force 2000, and then we got a role reversal. Then there's another major plot arc where you have the corrupted generals from the Pentagon, known as the Jugglers, who framed the Joe team. Hawk ends up arrested, and Covergirl goes underground with the Free Joes so that they can get Hawk back. In this particular arc, she gets hurt while trying to rescue Hawk, but that's pretty much all the stress that's put on her role. However, our favorite appearance has to be the 24th issue of Special Missions. In this one, all the women of the G.I. Joe team, Covergirl, Scarlett, Jinx, and Lady Jaye, are sent undercover as cheerleaders to protect the president at this exhibition baseball game. Understandably, all of them are pretty uncomfortable with their outfits and what they have to do, but a job is a job and they keep up with it. Now, while they're doing all of this, the other part of the G.I. Joe team is in position, ready to apprehend the Cobra operatives. However, Crystal Ball, a hypnotist, shows up, which nobody was prepared for, so sure enough, everyone except our gals gets hypnotized. The ladies take charge immediately, and Covergirl was the one in charge of getting the team members up to speed. Now, Crystal Ball is a very good hypnotist. He even claimed that once he hypnotizes people, the trance stays. However, Covergirl managed to break it in no time. She saved the day by getting backup when our girls were being overwhelmed, and yet no one actually paid attention to her because of how small this moment was in the comic. The last time we see her is in the 149th issue where she's keeping an eye on Destro's castle. That's it. She was present in several important Marvel-era arcs, but rarely as the central focus, and the only attention she really got was from Clutch, and Clutch is so aggravating. From the first time we're introduced to Covergirl, Clutch is overtly obsessed with her, and he is a Joe and he's on her side, so there's no way she can refuse working with him. He kept harassing her throughout the years, and throughout the Marvel run, we never get any resolution of this tension. We would have liked it if she had punched him, but that never happened. Then, in Devil's Due, we find out that she and Shipwreck are together, which is nice, but does Clutch take the hint? Not at all. And this whole Clutch business is just one minor example of how the franchise never treated Covergirl right. Action Force, British Comics Continuity. As kids, we had no idea there was a British version of G.I. Joe until we got into it as teens, but when we finally did get into it, it made Covergirl so much better. Now, this series is basically just the UK market recontextualization, basically with the same characters but different branding and original stories. Here, Covergirl was introduced in the 9th issue of European Missions reprints, and when she was introduced, she stated very plainly, straight up, that she never wants to model again. The universe makes her an undercover operative in Amsterdam, where she basically models a large diamond as bait for this weapons deal. They were targeting an arms dealer with the name Weaponsmith, who was building this portable battle laser called the Stonecutter, where they were going to use diamonds to generate this destructive beam, and Covergirl was captured by Weaponsmith's team. So this Action Force team, led by Flint, extracted her, and during the fight, Covergirl got the Stonecutter and used it to destroy Weaponsmith's weapon platform and take him out in the chaos, which was a very cool moment. We love that in this story, she starts off exploiting her beauty for the assignment, even though she didn't really want to, and then gets caught. While usually that would turn her into a damsel in distress, she managed to use the crappy hand dealt to her for the better and ended up being the one who saves the day. She deserved that W, and we're so glad she got it so gloriously.
Okay, let's shake him up before we grab him.
Sunbow Animated Series, G.I. Joe, 1983 to 86. When we think about G.I. Joe, we think about this show. This was basically what introduced many of us to G.I. Joe, but there are some issues with it. The show is inconsistent. Let me break it down for you. Covergirl's first Sunbow appearance comes in the original 5-part 1983 miniseries, commonly known as the Mass Device. She had long blonde hair and a green jacket. Then, when The Revenge of Cobra came out, she showed up with the auburn bob and brown jacket that we saw with her action figure. And this aesthetic remained for the rest of the show. But think about it for a second. She had blonde hair and then she suddenly had auburn hair. There should be some comment about why she changed her style, right? Like even a passing comment that it would be better for the mission because long hair is hard to maintain, but nope, nothing was said. And personally, we figured they're the same character because she's voiced by Liz Aubrey, also credited as Libby Aubrey throughout the show. As for her role, she was basically the support on the side. No main character moments for her, but we're glad that she didn't see Clutch bothering her in the show. From the get-go, she was paired with Shipwreck, which is good for her because we don't think anyone deserves to be harassed in their workplace. But what we don't like is that a lot of her more memorable screen time is tied to that pairing. Like, come on, she deserves a little better than that, I think. However, that said, we do get episodes where she gets more activity. In Lights, Camera, Cobra, several Joes were brought on as technical advisors for a Hollywood production about the team. Covergirl spends the whole time managing Shipwreck, but then Shipwreck eventually gets captured, and Covergirl has to make up a ruse so that she can convince Cobra Commander to release him. This is a really nice moment because we see how quickly she thinks on her feet, which we appreciate. Then we have Cobra Claws Are Coming to Town, where we see Covergirl basically being the savior once more. She basically insults Cobra Commander to get him riled up and using that to her advantage to rain fire on everybody. But sadly, the Cobra troops get the upper hand on them and everyone's knocked out. When they awake, they find out that Zartan had pretended to be Duke and told everyone that Keystone City is under G.I. Joe's martial law. The Joes have to escape and a huge fight breaks out. Here, our girl basically uses the Cobra Rattler to get rid of the tanks. Cobra Commander manages to disable the Rattler using the Sky Striker's missiles, but luckily, Covergirl is saved by Polly, a giant bird. Duke, who was kidnapped by Cobra Commander, is saved, and Covergirl and Duke share a loving kiss. In Season 2, we have an episode titled Glamour Girls, where we see her use her modeling background as an operational asset. She and Lady Jaye have to infiltrate the modeling shoot that was run by Zartan and Baroness. Now, for this assignment, Covergirl mentioned an agency that went out of business years ago to the Cobra operatives. They obviously didn't know that and tried to go along with whatever she was saying, proving it to her and Lady Jaye that they were fakes. It was a small moment, sure, but we're happy that her background is used as genuine expertise. Then, in 1987, we got the animated film, but sadly, she doesn't get a meaningful story role there. Lady Jaye gets recurring moments with Flint, and Scarlett has her moments with Snake Eyes, and we get to learn more about them both and how they lead their lives and look at their roles inside and out of their jobs. But Covergirl, she gets none of that, and that's a huge missed opportunity in our books. Devil's Due Publishing, G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, Volume 2, 2001 to 2008. 7 years after the end of the Marvel run, Devil's Due revived the continuity with the Joe team disbanded and Cobra returning as a serious threat. I gotta say, in terms of page time and narrative investment, in the 7-year run between 2001 and 2008, Covergirl gets more from Devil's Due than she ever did from Marvel. And we get it right from the first arc they give her. Yep, we're talking about the 16th issue of G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, Volume 2, where she teams up with Spirit and Snake Eyes because there has been a series of child abductions. These children appear identical, and all of them are taken by a villain named Hannibal. As they investigate the matter further, they end up in this larger Cobra Island storyline where she and Spirit end up captured. And surprise, the other Joes are also trapped there. And guess who else is trapped there? Cobra Commander. Cobra Commander and the Joes have to work together to make the breakout possible, and we like that. Then, in the 20th issue of G.I. Joe, America's Elite, we find out that Shipwreck and Covergirl are finally together. Clutch, who's been obsessed with her since forever, responds with jealousy, which is played off as dark comedy. We like that tonal choice because it brings a certain edge to it. And we also get to learn about how Covergirl and Shipwreck got together through flashbacks, because in the animated show there was banter between the two, but nothing implied that Covergirl actually wanted Shipwreck to be her boo, you know? In the present day, the couple is together on a mission to rescue a kidnapped senator. They go to Rio de Janeiro after following the leads and eventually get the senator back in one piece. Slowly but surely, we get to see Covergirl's personal life and her operational life blossom in the Devil's Due run. Her relationship with Shipwreck basically humanizes her in a way that none of the other continuities do. We're not saying she's suddenly a lead character, but hey, it's better than being a background fixture, you know? Then, in 2003, we get the G.I. Joe vs. Transformers crossover from Image Comics, and Covergirl showed up as a supporting character who helps Snake Eyes after he's wounded by an explosion. I wish we got more of her in this run, but hey, something is better than nothing. IDW Publishing, Original Continuity, 2008 to 2016. And now we come to the most ambitious reimagining. We saved the best for last here because it's worth it. We're talking about Threat Matrix, Prologue, Covergirl. The issue begins with Covergirl showing up at a hospital to pay a visit to Duke. She sees a woman visiting Duke, and that woman, Aisha, is actually his wife. Heartbroken, Covergirl gives the flowers she brought with her to the receptionist, who recognizes her as Courtney Krieger, a renowned model and one of the few celebrities who were selected for Survival Extreme. Turns out, after getting sick and tired of modeling, Courtney's agent suggested that she go for this military-themed show to do a reset, and Courtney actually took the whole thing seriously. She won through most of the competition and was the last one standing with Richard Ruby. While they waited for the final episode to get set up, instead of staying in, Courtney went for a little walk and discovered that the entire crew was under attack by pirates. The show's host was confronted by armed men, and he immediately said he would hand Courtney over as ransom if they let him go. Courtney obviously wasn't going to let that happen, so she improvised. She used a paintball gun to disarm one of the pirates and discovered she was frighteningly good under pressure. Then, using the camouflage skills she learned during the training, she basically takes the pirates out one by one. Richard Ruby, who's actually Bullet Man, is impressed by her talent and asks her to look up someone named Hawk. That's how our girl ends up joining G.I. Joe. We love that we got to see her in action and that she wasn't just scouted for her beauty. IDW Publishing, Larry Hama Continuation, 2010 to present day. This is another version of the IDW continuation that's directly written by Larry Hama. He picked it up right after his own Marvel run ended, and it basically ignores Devil's Due completely. Covergirl is basically the PR team for G.I. Joe. She's been the public-facing one ever since G.I. Joe became well-known to the world. We see her hook up with Duke, but then turn around and investigate him immediately when members start to suspect that Duke has defected, even though she clearly has a lot of feelings for him. Then, she became a part of the Joe Tank crew to protect civilians from Cobra with the help of Steeler, Wildcard, and Cross Country. This material mainly belongs to Hama's IDW continuity, especially around a Real American Hero number 173 and later 228. At one point, she gets into a shootout with a Crimson Guardsman, and when she recovers from the coma, she learns that her throat has been severely damaged and she now has a significantly deeper voice. This deeper voice goes on to become a part of her character for the rest of the run. This sustained character work makes IDW Covergirl, both versions, the most fleshed out version of the character to date. We also have to take a moment here to mention the way that Larry Hama portrays the reality of war. These are special operatives who are risking their life and well-being every day to make sure everyone else has a better life. So of course, they're willing to endanger their safety without a second thought. But what happens when they get hurt? How do they cope with that disability? Her deeper voice seems like a small change, right? I mean, it isn't glamorous, but it makes her so real. G.I. Joe, Resolute, 2009. In 2009, we got the Warren Ellis and Joaquim Dos Santos animated special. It was almost an hour long, and Covergirl, voiced by Grey DeLisle, shows up as an assist. She helps in the evacuation of the USS Flag, and that's about it. Even if we wanted to blame people for not giving her enough screen time, we feel like there wasn't much space to give her more anyway, with the limited runtime. Plus, Snake Eyes, Duke, and Cobra Commander were the central figures in this animated special, but hey, at least we got to see her, right? G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra, 2009. Well, we do think of the Sunbow TV show whenever G.I. Joe is mentioned. For a lot of people, the 2009 movie is the one that introduced them to G.I. Joe. Here, she has literally the smallest role. She's played by Czech supermodel Karolina Kurvoka, which could very well be a knowing wink at the character's modeling backstory, or just a coincidence. You decide. In the film, she basically helps out General Hawk in the pit and she's the one who notices an MP acting really strange. When she tries to go to Hawk to report it, the MP, who's actually Zartan in disguise, kills her, and then we never hear about her again. And when this movie came out, action figures came out with it. Yes, this Covergirl got a tie-in figure with her specialty being Special Weapons Officer, and the codename returned once more on the box. This could have been a big breakthrough for Covergirl, but somehow the trend that Marvel started stays true in this movie as well. Covergirl is just here to embody danger, and not the character that she is and has become. Energon Universe, 2023 to present. Finally, we have the Energon Universe, the current Skybound/Image continuity where G.I. Joe and the Transformers share a connected world overseen by Robert Kirkman's Skybound era. Covergirl appears as Courtney A. Krieger, tied to Hawk's New Joe initiative, and again connected to the Wolverine driver identity. But as the ongoing G.I. Joe book develops, she's not just background dressing anymore. By issue 9, she's thrown into direct danger alongside Baroness while the larger Cobra Energon weapons plot escalates. This version is still being built in real time, but there's already more meat here than just model-turned-tank driver. Final thoughts. And there you have it. We honestly felt like Covergirl's story has always been a bit of a missed opportunity. I mean, G.I. Joe is all about showing that anyone from wherever they are can be the good guys and defeat evil. And we feel like Covergirl has the perfect story for that. You get this character who grew up being exploited for her beauty, something she was born with, but she wants to make something of herself, so then she rejects that notion and does things that endanger herself repeatedly in order to protect everybody because that's more fulfilling to her. How inspiring is that? We really want Covergirl to get more attention from the fandom and the publishers as a whole, and we hope this video has changed your mind about her. Comment your favorite Covergirl moment in the comments down below, and we'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if you want to see more content like it. It really helps us figure out what you guys want to see more of. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and we'll see ya in the next one.